Welcome back to Arise Primetime, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Charles Aniegolu. So what a week, eh? Just when it seemed like the collective political opposition was on the verge of imploding, they pulled a rabbit out of a hat with the announcement that the coalition had adopted the African Democratic Congress, or ADC, as their party of choice to challenge President Tinubu in 2027. There is, of course, so much yet to be clarified about the who, what, when, where, and how. Though if you ask members of the new ADC opposition coalition, they'll say that Nigerian politics has now moved up to the next level, with the whole country reverberating from the news that most of the opposition big guns have thrown in their lot with the coalition. Most, but not all. Meanwhile, the coalition has racked up its first war with, you guessed it, the ruling APC, which has come out sounding bruised but bullish, to the relish of opposition members who say that the APC's caustic reaction will ensure that the new ADC is kept at the forefront of everyone's mind. Well, let's see what our analysts make of the rising volume of political chatter. And for their considered assessments, I'm joined now in the studio by the legislative consultant and public policy analyst, Chibuzo Okereke, and by the policy strategist and group CEO of the global investment and trade company, Baba Yusuf. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. And I must ask you, Baba Yusuf, because you run a global trade and investment company. You're going to invest in space. Because if you do, I will be one of your first customers, believe me.
To be honest, Charles, that was an amazing interview. And thank you for taking time to give this kind of special.
Well, the person we have to thank is Georgina, one of our producers,
amazing.
Who got that guy.
This expands our scope of thinking and everything about life. And look at these people. Look at where they are. Look at where we are in Nigeria, and we're in the same planet Earth.
Absolutely.
It's amazing, you know.
That is really what it does, doesn't it? It makes you think.
Yes, absolutely.
It makes you think.
And this is a Nigerian also. You know, a brother has gone there. Look at what he's been doing. Look at what he's doing. Why? Because there's a place, there's a country where they are given the opportunity to do that. And they do that not based on sentiments or parochial reasons. And he's able to achieve that, sadly not in Nigeria, but in the United States of America.
Absolutely.
Well, I hope that this will be, you know, a awakening for us.
Absolutely.
The sad thing is the people that should listen and watch hardly listen and watch.
Absolutely. Chibuzo, were you inspired by it?
Absolutely. I was greatly inspired, especially the fact that he's thinking home, even at that level. The cultural expression, the display of the Nigerian flag among about 4 United States flags. So I must congratulate him.
Indeed.
And thank him for thinking home, you know, using this opportunity to inspire Nigerians. Interestingly, he was able to draw a nexus between his experience and the need for democratic reform in Nigeria. And that is key, that wherever you are, you're representing Nigeria, and you need to keep contributing for us to improve this country.
Very good point. Let's move on to, because you guys are talking about inspiration. So let me ask you whether you've been inspired by what's been happening in Nigerian politics in the last few days.
Well, I will say I'm just cautiously watching because we've traveled this kind of roads before, Charles. And the methodology and the way and manner the coalition is coalescing, and the interesting combination of the dramatis personae at the moment, I must say the ADC currently has some people that I consider highly respectable, good, patriotic Nigerians, people of grit, you know, and good standing. No doubt about it. The likes of former chairman of APC, you know, Chief Oyegun, the like of the chairman, interim chairman himself, Senator David Mark, and others. I mean, we have Mr. Peter Obi and others. But you see, the collection of very strange bedfellows with highly conflicting and contending interests is what will likely be the downer for me in this unraveling drama already. because we all know how these things played out 2023 and all that. Of course, having spoken to a lot of the players that are friends or allies or whatever, are saying, you know what, this happened in 2014. And I say it's happened in 2014. But the initial steps are taken doesn't look at what happened in 2014. Well, I wouldn't like to be defeatist, but I'm saying the science beyond the razzmatazz and the hype is not really what I want to see. In the next 1 week or two weeks, I want to see some signs of strategic positioning, strategic thinking put into this, more towards what they want to do for Nigerians. Because it presents to me it's a combination of people that just want to chase President Tinubu out of power. And if that is the objective, for me as a Nigerian, and I will tell other Nigerians too, it should be dead on arrival. We should start hearing in disposition in action, not sentiments, not emotions, not going in to go and do revenge because day before yesterday you were shouting to the house heavens that President Tinubu is the Messiah, and now you are here telling us he should get out like yesterday. We would like to see objectivity, patriotism, togetherness, and strategic thinking to remove this political colossus, whether you like it or not, that has instrument of power in his hands. That is the only way I think this will be interesting for me in the next couple of weeks.
And very good points there, Chibuzo. I mean, I wonder if you share that sense of caution. I was going to ask you if you were, because a lot of people have said, and in fact, before I just come to you, let me clarify one point, because it was thought that Peter Obi had actually left the Labour Party, but his people got in touch with us today to clarify that he is still in the Labour Party, even though he's in the new coalition. But if you were Peter Obi, how cautious would you be right now with this new ADC coalition?
Very cautious. In fact, the truth is that nobody goes to any coalition without an agreement. It's only the ordinary people that are with nothing. Every single person you saw on that particular platform have met, discussed extensively for months, and have agreed on one point or the other, whether to abandon your presidential ambition in that respect, what is going to come for me?
Yes.
Is he going to be secretary to the federal government? Is he going to be minister of this or that? And we have seen it in the past. And I share that view that philosophy and ideology is central. The place of Nigerian people, national development must drive political ideology. Peter Obi, I believe, has experienced these people in the past. He must be very, very conscious of his strategic engagement. Among all the people there, only himself and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has between 6 to 7 million votes. Although those votes may not be there now, but it's a huge political capital you see politicians like to, leverage. And again, recently, we're hearing issue of, we're going to do one tenure and all that. My greatest worry is that we have abandoned governance in Nigeria. This is the earliest time in the history of our democracy since 1999. We've started campaigning against even electoral rules, both by the ruling party and the opposition. The system has been so heated that today is now about maneuvering for 2027 and no longer about what we can deliver for the Nigerian people. So Nigerians still face challenges, and I agree with Yusuf that if you're coalescing, there has to be a point that is focusing on addressing the people and not wrestling power. Because we have seen power wrestled in the past, and the same people who brought the person to power almost 1 year or two changed and started looking for. So it's at the heart of political contestation of individual. So it's still this elite public company limited that, the downtrodden, the ordinary Nigerian seem not to be in the picture for what they are fighting for. So for me, Peter Obi, his views and courage and acceptance, there's a complete difference with what we have seen with other people. So he had to be very conscious as engaged. But like he said, without collaboration and partnership with other people, you cannot do it. But how much can your will sustain the contending force that these people bring to the table? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the point here, and I take on board what you're saying. I mean, I think the point is that Peter Obi made it very clear from the outset that if it isn't about the Nigerian people, he's not going to be involved. He said that very clearly. But some unconfirmed reports have suggested that given that Peter Obi has said publicly that he's happy to do one term, that the plan might be for him to be the presidential candidate in 2027 with maybe somebody like El Rufai or possibly even Atiku as his vice. And then in 2030-31, when it's the turn of the North, they'll just switch positions. I mean, do you see that as a plausible scenario? Because that's being talked about by some people, and fairly prominent people at that.
Yeah, with all due respect to the people that are theorizing this, profound respect to them, older than us, highly experienced. But like our father will say, the prayer of a father is for his children to be better than him or the mother. And I dare say in this, they miss the point. The dramatis personae, the contending forces, individuals, let me use that, may not be ready to back down. And I'm seeing these signs, which is why the Labour Party is enmeshed in crisis, PDP is enmeshed in crisis. They have refused to learn from the 2023 classroom, scenario of politics. And they are fixated by personal parochial interest to think that they can pull a rabbit out of the hat this way. Like you rightly mentioned, Excellency Peter Obi is throwing this pitching, and like Chibuzo said, very early, and I translate it or I interpret it as a sign of desperation by all the opposition political parties, throwing all sorts of offers now to get aligned. But the issue is this. Already, what former governor of Rivers and Minister of Transport, Rotimi and Honorable Rotimi Amechi, said on that particular day, fired a salvo, Charles, to say he has the capacity to lead Nigeria. As a strategic thinker, what he's saying is, I'm throwing my hat into the ring.
Indeed.
Right? And if that is what he's saying, it presupposes that you are in for a hot ride.
It'll be competitive.
Absolutely. Not just competitive.
Fiercely competitive.
Not just fiercely competitive, but we may end up with a logjam. And the issue we did from a strategic point of view, at that point when it happens, we're already on countdown to 2026.
Yes.
2026. Will they have enough time for them to fall back into their plan B?
That's a good point.
And regroup and be able to take on President
that's a good
Bola
point.
Ahmed
So
Tinubu?
let me pick up on that, Chibuzo. Do you expect this new ADC coalition to be any different from the PDP or the APC in terms of, for instance, how they'll conduct their primaries, etc.? Or is it likely to be the same sort of money-driven affair, given the kind of politicians who appear to be the front runners in that coalition?
I think that the intervening variables will remain elite syndrome. You are still going to have slave trade within the political party primaries. And what we call slave trade is that delegates are owned by people. Delegates are not independent party members who come to cast their vote to select a leader. But maybe, like Yusuf said about the classroom lessons of 2023, and owing to the capacity and sagacity of the man that is in power today, who clearly understands the terrain and how to play the game, I think that they may have some sense to arrive at a consensus. It may not even be, it may appear symbolically to be very competitive, leading to the primaries, but the key players and the dramatic personnel will eventually, before they even arrive at this point, agree. Somebody at the end of the day, leading to the primary, may decide to betray the process. We have seen it time and time again. We don't know who is going to do that. But I know, like in 2014, they may have a consensus, and through the competition, that consensus candidate will emerge. But I don't see the plausibility of the reverse role you talked about, of somebody being president and vice, and then in 2031 they will reverse. Former president now becomes vice presidential.
Well, you can't put it past them when it comes to Nigeria.
Vice presidential candidate. But really, I think the president during the June 12th address at the joint session of the National Assembly made it clear that he is a Democrat. He has not made effort to stop INEC from registering anybody, and he has not made effort to stifle the voices of people democratically.
Right.
And that in any case, those who speak against him, he's going to use democratic means to also address that. So this is an opportunity for the opposition. Unfortunately, many of the opposition coalition members have done a lot of harm to this country that I don't know how they can whitewash themselves and make the people to believe them, which is why people are saying that Mr. P2B had to be very conscious about this engagement. But again, many of them claimed their display characteristics is only political, is not who they are. And I think Nigerians deserve the kind of leadership and political contestation that is focused at national development that is sustainable. Yeah.
Okay, what impact do you think, Baba Yusuf, that all these departures, for example, he was talking about the president and him speaking on Democracy Day about the defections and so on. What impact do you think all that is going to have on the PDP, for instance, and its political fortunes? Is the party now effectively out of the loop, or is the fact that it still has several serving governors in its arsenal, which, by the way, the coalition doesn't appear to have, does that mean that it shouldn't be written off?
Well, we will never say never, but from all indications, all variables and parameters, PDP is on its way to becoming a legacy party. The principal players that are the pillars of the party have left or are about to leave or are just tired. And that speaks volume with regards to that. With regards to the governors, I've said it in this studio 4 weeks ago, governors are leaving and they are leaving. And more are leaving, and Nigerians should watch that. It is one of the departures will be a very dramatic one, which is not new. Towards the election, you will see one of the most vocally opposing person amongst those governors will be the one to do the drama to the camp. And that is what will be the strategic nail. The second nail is the linchpin strategy of a man called Yenson Wike, who will ensure that that remains the same. But now coming back to the ADC, to add to what Chubuzo said, the excitement, why I'm not excited is you have people that are principally driving this opposition, that are unshamedly telling us that President Tinubu's administration has brought hunger. When for 8 years, people have been holding portfolio of ministers, of governors, and dragged us more than 30 years back, and actually left legacy issues, contentious and toxic, including religious and ethnic bigotry. And these are the same guys that are latter-day activists that are telling us that we should vote for them, they will change the game. The level of hypocrisy has become so infantile that Nigerians should no longer look at this coalition or whatever as the case may be. We should shine our eyes, as they say, on the street, ask the right questions, and see beyond that, because the critical pillars of ADC will dilute the substance and value and credibility of some of the people I called earlier, and those that are well-meaning within the fold. And because of that eternal betrayal, the question is, will these people, are all of them actually really for coalition? Or is that part of their strategy to ensure that by 2027, it's going over for any political movement that is opposing the ruling party? Yeah,
that's a good point. And just before we go...
You asked a question about... okay, please, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to ask you this very quickly, because it is a relatively important issue. I mean, there's been talk, for example, the PDP people, and I spoke to some of the very senior people who are still there, and I wonder if you see the possibility of some of these politicians who defected to both the APC and the ADC returning to the PDP once they discover that they're unable to secure tickets in the APC and in the ADC, tickets which will obviously be fiercely competitive, particularly in the APC.
Yeah, absolutely. We have seen, I mean, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar went to the APC in 2014. He didn't even stay 2 years before he returned back. And let me tell you, political parties in Nigeria are actually companies, commercial companies.
I like that.
The ADC today, the leadership that claim to believe, will be rejoicing. A lot of investment has come in. We saw that in the Labour Party ahead of 2023. So PDP, incidentally, is one party that has roots all over the country. It's not a party that can die easily. I know, I tell people this, and as far as the political climate we operate remains like this, you are going to see the governor of Akwa Ibom, for instance, tells you that he's in love with the PDP. Though that he's leaving, he will not allow outsiders to come and hijack the party structure. In other words, he's managing both parties in Akwa Ibom State.
Astonishing.
So you're going to see, now what is driving it in many respects is the fact that they feel there's a contestation
Very
to
briefly,
take
we've got
away
30 seconds.
power from the
Yeah.
South. And they are making efforts, just like what we saw in 2014,
Right.
to consolidate power. So I can tell you a lot of people will return back immediately. We go through the elections, they will quickly start running. And the people like Governor Yusuf, the minister, is aware that PDP will be very strong and relevant in 2031.
Right.
And it's about who is controlling the structure, and will be able to use it to deliver.
On that salutary note, I want to thank you both very much indeed. Chibuzo Okereke is a legislative consultant and public policy analyst, and Baba Yusuf is the policy strategist and group CEO of the Global Investment and Trade Company. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank
Great
you.
to see you. That's it for this edition of Arise Primetime. Join us again next week. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.